Hi, thanks for joining for another reading lesson. So lately we've been reading a lot of expository nonfiction, and this week we're going to continue. This week you're actually going to hear two stories about polar bears, which live in the North Pole. This is one that you're going to hear part of today. So Polar Bears, it's by Mark Newman. What do you think you know about polar bears already? Go ahead and tell somebody at your house, or tell an animal or a stuffed animal. Tell somebody what you already know about polar bears. And also, what questions do you have about polar bears? What do you wonder about them? We're going to be talking about wondering today when we're reading our own nonfiction books. So it's good to wonder. Okay, let's begin. Polar bears. This one says, to my mother and father, Estelle and Harry. Polar bears are big. The polar bear is the biggest bear in the world. They're even bigger than the Kodiak brown bear. A giant male polar bear can weigh 1,700 pounds. That's about as heavy as a small car. Females usually weigh less than males. One polar bear was said to weigh 2,200 pounds. That's more than a ton of bear. Polar bears are tiny. Polar bears weigh only 1 pound at birth. They will grow to 30 times their birth weight by the time they leave the den. The den is the little home that the polar bears make before they have their cubs, their bears. A mother polar bear is not able to eat while she nurses her babies from January to April. By then, mother polar bears are very hungry. Polar bears are twins. Most polar bear mothers give birth to twins. Although polar bears usually do not hibernate, expectant mothers, meaning like mothers that are pregnant, expectant mother polar bears do. Mating occurs in mid-spring, and females dig a den into a snowdrift in the fall. Babies are born inside the den in early January. The den is cozy, staying 40 degrees warmer than the frigid Arctic air outside. Okay, so let's pause for just a second and let's tell somebody at home or an animal, what have you learned about polar bears so far? And what did this part make you wonder? What have you learned so far, and what do you wonder? Go ahead and pause me because I'm going to keep reading. Polar bears struggle. Baby polar bears will stay with their mother for over 2 years as she teaches them all the skills they will need to make it into adulthood. But being a baby bear is not easy. 3 out of 4 do not survive to see their 3rd birthday. Polar bears live in the Arctic. Okay, so let's zoom in on this map here. Polar bears live only in the north. Unlike penguins, they do not live in Antarctica. Penguins and polar bears never get to meet in the wild. Polar bears live in only 5 countries, all of which surround the North Pole. Russia, Canada, the United States, that's us, North America, Norway, and Greenland. Here's Norway over here and Greenland. So all right around the North Pole. Polar bears are not really white. Despite what they look like and what most people think, polar bears are black, not white. Under all that warm, thick fur, their skin is totally dark. The fur itself is made up of clear, hollow hairs, sort of like hollow tubes that contain no color whatsoever. The bears look like they are white only because their clear hair reflects light. Okay, let's pause. What have you learned about polar bears from this part that I just read you? Go ahead and pause me while you talk about that. And based on what you have learned so far, what questions do you have about polar bears? Go ahead and rattle off all your questions. Just throw them all out there. Okay, my last question is, what was the most surprising or interesting thing you learned about polar bears from the reading today? Go ahead and discuss that with somebody at home, if possible. All right. If we were together, I know that some people would probably wonder how big those polar bears really are. Maybe what polar bears eat. Maybe in the beginning you might have wondered how many polar bear or how many babies they had, or how long the babies stay with their mother. We have figured out some answers to those questions. We've learned some things. We know that male bears can weigh up to 2,200 pounds, and that most polar bears give birth to twins. There's some other things that we've learned. Maybe you have picked up on those along the way, which is great. We're going to continue to read this story the next day. But now it's your turn to go find a really good nonfiction book if you have one, or find some more articles online relating to a subject that you're really interested about, something that you're curious about. If you're curious about something, go find an article and read about it. At least 25, 30 minutes, find a comfortable spot. You got this. See you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe.